satsang will be conducted by Sreeram Babu Bojja Mahodaya. And the topic will be yogic practices and their practical considerations. Before welcoming Mahodaya, I would like to introduce him. Namaste Sarvebhyaha. Welcome to VK Satsang. Today's satsang will be conducted by Sri Rambabu Mahodaya. Topic will be yogic practices and their practical considerations. And before welcoming Mahodaya, I would like to introduce him briefly. Sri Rambabu Mahodaya is an independent professional with more than 31 years of experience, technical writing, and language and life skill training, information technology, civil engineering also. He has worked with teams across the globe and has rich multinational, multicultural, and multi-domain experience. He's currently a freelance trainer and consultant. His expertise is in English language and communication skills, soft skills, and behavioral skills. He works with academic institutions and corporates, designing training strategies and running short and long-term training programs. Sreeram Mahodaya is also a yoga enthusiast, passionate practitioner and yoga teacher, evaluator, level 3 evaluator, and he's certified by Yoga Certification Board, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. His expertise lies in Hatha Yoga, and his sessions integrate asana, pranayama, relaxation techniques, and meditation, promoting well-being for all age groups. And regarding his education, he holds a bachelor degree of technology in civil engineering from SV University, Tirupati. And he has a master degree of ancient Indian management techniques from National Sanskrit University, Tirupati. He is a certified yoga teacher from Yoga Vidya Gurukul, a premier yoga institute in India. He also holds a certificate in yoga and stress management and a diploma in functional Sanskrit from National Sanskrit University, Tirupati. About his hobbies and goals for life, he has passion for traveling, Carnatic music, and yoga. And his goals are being an avid practitioner of yoga and having got immensely benefited from the same. Mahodaya's another long-term goal is to contribute to promoting yoga among the masses, especially the young people. Another lifelong goal of Mahodaya's is to spread the importance of Sanskrit language and the treasure trove of ancient Indian knowledge. So I welcome Mahodaya. Mahodaya, welcome to the session. We would like to hear from you a lot.
Thank you, Bhagini. Thank you for the introduction. Let's straight away start with the topic. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for making me part of Satsang group. I feel really privileged, and these kind of initiatives really help a lot to spread positive vibes and bring positivity into our lives. May I request one of the singers to please read out this wonderful stanza, which talks about the benefits of satsanga. Is somebody reading?
Jadyam thiyo kharati sinchati vachi satyam manonnatim tishati papamapakaroti चेतः प्रसादयति दिक्षु तनोति कीर्तिं सत्सङ्गदिः कथय किन्न करोति पुंसाम्.
Thank you, Mahadaya.
धन्यवादः.
I'm sure you're aware of the benefits of Satsanga, so I won't be spending time on explaining the meaning to you. Whenever we talk about yoga, it is customary that we offer our prayers to Sage Patanjali. I'll offer my prayer to Sage Patanjali. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Namaha. Gurave Namaha. Now, this is today's topic, the practical considerations when we practice yoga. There are many texts on yoga. The prominent texts are Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and two Hatha Yoga texts, namely Hatha Yoga Pradipika by Swami Swatmarama and Bhiranda Samhita by Sage Bhiranda. They have been written at a time there is, the environment was free of pollution. There was a huge ventilation wherever they go. Their houses are built with a lot of ventilation, following Vastu and all that. Nowadays, in the modern world, we don't have the luxury of that kind of atmosphere, that environment. So the way yoga is practiced has evolved over time. However, the teachers have preserved the ancient ways of practicing yoga, but then with slight modifications according to the changing world. Now we'll take a quick look at how we better practice several yogic practices. So I'm not going to focus on all the yogic practices, but then a few common practices we normally consider for our practice. Now these are the aspects that are going to be discussed today. What are the various yogic practices that are available for us to practice normally? Right? There may be many others, but then what are the usual practices we consider? What can be the right environment? I mean, talking about the place where we practice. Essential equipment, if at all we need some. How do we prepare physically and mentally before we start our practice? What is a suggested sequence of practices? There is a suggestion from our teachers, and there is also a justification. Let us look at it. What is suggested diet and lifestyle? What are the common challenges we might face in our endeavor to make progress in yoga? And what are the essential precautions or the practical aspects that we must consider while practicing asanas, pranayama, and dhyana? Right. Firstly, these are the three important texts of yoga. Patanjali Yoga Sutras, probably the first major text. Yoga has been there in the Vedas and the Upanishads, but then Patanjali Yoga Sutras is considered to be the first major text, including various aspects of yoga, and sage Patanjali has called it Ashtanga Yoga. And then came Hatha Yoga Pradipika and Gheranda Samhita. These are later texts, very detailed, even with details of how to practice certain asanas, pranayama, several techniques of dhyana also. Now, if we look at these texts, Sage Patanjali initially, came out with Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold practice, not eightfold practice, 8 limbs of yoga. These are these 8 yamas, which are social disciplines. We have 5 of them: ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Niyamas, self-disciplines: saucha, santosha, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. And then we have asanas. Sage Patanjali has not talked about any asanas. We just mentioned how asana is, what asana is, the definition, the major use, major benefit, and that's it. How do we attain perfection in asana? And then pranayama. Again, Sage Patanjali has not mentioned any of the pranayama techniques, but just mentioned major aspects of pranayama. Pratyahara is withdrawal of senses, preparing the sadhaka for higher practices. Now, these 4, yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama, are called Bahiranga Yoga practices. Pratyahara is a bridge between Bahiranga Yoga and Antaranga Yoga. Antaranga Yoga consists of dharana, dhyana, and finally samadhi. And this dharana, dhyana, and samadhi together are called samyama. Now, you may have heard that dhyana can be performed in different ways. The most popular definition we hear about dhyana is focus on swasa. Is that right? Now, it is not just focus on swasa alone. We can perform dhyana focusing on any object. Rather, the most important objects suggested by Sage Patanjali in his Vibhuti Pada, right? There it is mentioned, if at all we perform samyama, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi on the sun god, we get to know Tara Mandala Jnana, the knowledge of all Tara Mandala. If we focus on the moon, there is another set of knowledge we receive. Likewise, he has mentioned several objects on which we can focus on, perform samyama. Why is it brought together, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi? They are continuation to the previous practices. Dharana is focus on a particular object. Dhyana is unbroken flow of that focus on the same object. And samadhi, if at all we reach that state, it is said that there is no distinction between the sadhaka and the object. Both become one. It is something none of our teachers have experienced, so we do not have the knowledge of how it happens. It is to be experienced by the sadhakas on their own. Now, there are additional practices suggested in Gheranda Samhita and Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Most important among them are Shat Karmas, the purification techniques. These are meant for purification of the body, internal purification of the body, from the mouth to anus, all the internal systems. We have neti, wherein there are 2 types of neti, jala neti and sutra neti. These 2 things we can perform normally. Dhauti, there are different types of dhauti. Probably the most common practice we can easily perform is Vamana Dhauti, using salted water, consuming a lot of salted water, and then vomiting out, which purifies the gastrointestinal tract and stomach. Basti is enema, purification of anus. Nauli, purification of the digestive organs, the stomach area. Kapalabhati, purification of the frontal lobe, sinuses. And Trataka for purification of eyes. Trataka can also be performed by us easily. Kapalabhati can also be done with a dedicated practice and having a stronger body. We can perform Nauli also. Nauli requires a certain strength on the part of sadhaka. And it is suggested that these practices be done with the guidance of a teacher who has practiced them, has undergone, has understood how these behave on the bodies, different types of body, right? Again, it is very important to consider the Ayurvedic constitution of the body before taking up one of these purification techniques. That a person with, let us say, low pitta can employ certain practices. A person who has high kapha can expel that kapha using certain practices. So it is better to approach a teacher who is conversant with them. We have mudras and gestures, very powerful. But then these are again, we can learn on our own too, practice on our own. But many people think that by performing mudra for a few minutes brings benefits. No, it is not the case. We have to employ such these mudras for say 15 minutes or even half an hour to realize the benefits of them. Right? We have three bandhas: Jalandhara bandha, Uddiyana bandha, and Mula bandha. These are not mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. These are part of Hatha Yoga texts. These bring immense benefits. These are employed as part of pranayama. Right? In pranayama, we have three aspects: Puraka, which is inhalation; Kumbhaka, which is retention; and Rechaka, which is exhalation. In order to perform Kumbhaka, we apply Jalandhara bandha. This is Jalandhara bandha. So, throat lock. Uddiyana bandha, it is abdomen lock. Mula bandha, the lock at perineum. Right? All these have immense benefits, but then these bandhas again are to be practiced under the guidance of a teacher. The modern yogic teachers like Swami Satyananda Saraswati, Swami Shivananda, Swami Nilanjananda Saraswati, they have brought in additional practices into our awareness. Antarmauna is one among them, and Yoga Nidra is another one. These are very powerful techniques, and Swara Yoga, of course. Swara Yoga is a book on Swara Yoga. Swara Yoga considers how our breathing takes place, whether the left nostril is predominant or right nostril is predominant, and how we can manage, we can switch from right to left or left to right, depending on what we do, what we want to do. Right? So, if at all you want to understand more about them, we can have another session wherein we can discuss Antarmauna, Yoga Nidra, and Swara Yoga in detail. Now, see, these are all the yogic practices that can be practiced by us now. These are all possible. Barring a few short karma, you need to take the help of a teacher, a seasoned practitioner who is aware of the effects of short karma. Right? Now, going into the right environment wherein we can practice. All this from these are all from texts, Katha Yoga Pradipika and Gyananda Samhita, which is possible also. We better have a clean environment without dust. We do a lot of inhalation and exhalation. We don't want to allow dust to pass into our lungs, which is very important. If it is quiet and peaceful, it is possible to get the actual benefits of performing yogic practices. So what is the goal of yoga? The very definition of yoga, according to Sage Patanjali, is what is this? Control of mind. It is control of mind. How is it possible, control of mind? We have to have no distractions around so that we can have control, right? So it has to be quite peaceful, free from distractions, and we better have ventilation, air passing through the room so that we experience the fresh air inhalation. And a moderate climate is recommended, not too hot and not too cold. So it is something we have to take into consideration during hot summers and cold winters. So we have to make sure we have such a room available, or such a hall available for practice. Time of practice, it is recommended that we practice at the same time of the day, if possible, at the same time of the day, every day, to reap the benefits of yoga. Now, what is the essential equipment? There is a big dilemma when it comes to choice of yoga mat. There are many materials available, and some are really inexpensive. Some are very, very expensive. Now, I would say we have to take into account these aspects. What kind of grip do you need? If you are performing intense standing and inverted asanas, we need a firm grip. So we have to consider that. The thickness, depending on the age, depending on your knee strength, you need thickness. For people of 35, 40 plus, we better have slightly more thick yoga mat, 6 mm or even 8 mm. That gives a decent cushioning to our knees. The weight, it can be lightweight or heavy also. Obviously, some dense materials are heavy in nature. Ground holding, it has to have firm grip on the floor also. It is not just grip to our feet, but also firm grip on the floor. If there are two layers, the top layer should offer us enough comfort and grip. It should be easily maintainable. We should be able to clean it with water or even soap. If at all, if you can spend more money, we can buy durable mats. Material, when it comes to material, it is important. There are materials like we have normal cotton yoga mats. The major disadvantage with that is it does not offer a great grip. So it is dangerous sometimes. We have polyvinyl chloride, PVC, also does not offer much of a grip. The better one, not too expensive, not too inexpensive, is TPE material. I think it is thermoplastic enamelers. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, TPE is comparatively better. There are other materials like NBR, which is expensive. They're not being made in India nowadays. Completely rubberized is also very good, but they're expensive. Cork yoga mats are also good, but they're expensive. So for a normal practitioner, I would recommend TPE material, TPE. Right. If you want to do more intense practice, yoga blocks are recommended. There are different ways we can we have seen during our practice recently that when we are in Trikonasana, it is not so easy to hold ourselves in that position. So you can use a yoga block here. This is triangle pose, if you can see, right? You can easily hold it and stay in the asana, which helps us to improve in that asana position. So that is how yoga blocks help. And if you want to intensify your asana practice even deeper, we have yoga belts. I would recommend for a beginner, this is not necessary. First, understand how to get into asanas. And then if you want to intensify, consider these additional equipment. If you want to practice Jala Neti, there is Neti pot available. It is recommended to go for a stainless steel one. Plastic is also good, but then we're going to use warm water, warm salted water. So plastic is not recommended to be used along with warm water. So either go for stainless steel or copper. Copper one would be difficult to clean. Quickly, physical and mental preparation. So this is very essential. Empty bowels. My teacher told me that we should have the large intestines completely clean. He did not mention small intestines. So probably, after having food, say 3.5 to 4.5 hours time is good enough to digestion to take place, and then probably we can start practicing yoga. Right? Clean body, it is recommended to have a bath before practicing yoga. Proper clothing, cotton clothing is recommended, and if at all it is a stretchable one, it is even better because we're going to stretch a lot in yoga. Before we get into asanas, warm-up poses are recommended. Anyway, that is going to be again discussed when we talk about sequence of asanas. What kind of mental preparation is required? We need to be enthusiastic enough. You should have that feeling, I'm going to yoga today. I'm going to do yoga. Every day you have the same enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm helps us to continue with the practice every day. And of course, peaceful mind. In order to ensure peaceful mind, again, as part of practice, we start every session with a prayer. The prayer is a means of preparation of, a means of mental preparation of the practitioner. If you have a sankalpa, it is better, sankalpa before prayer or as part of prayer. Many people think it is not necessary to have this mental preparation because they treat yoga as a form of exercise. We would not recommend that. Our teachers time and again repeatedly told us to have prayer as part of every yoga session. Yoga is a discipline. And that is how the Yoga Sutras also start. Atha Yoga Anushasanam says Patanjali. And we start to learn the discipline of yoga. Right? What are the proper sequence of practices? Now, as we already know, we start with prayer. And what after prayer? Immediately to loosen our joints, to prepare the body for asanas and other practices. We have the Sukshma Vyayama. These are popularized by Dhirendra Brahmachari Mahodaya. Right? And his guru actually came out with them, but then Dhirendra Brahmachari ji popularized Sukshma Vyayama. There are about 44 or 45 Sukshma Vyayama. Among them, we just need about 7 to 10 to prepare our bodies. And then it is recommended to go for Surya Namaskaras. After that, there are supine, prone, sitting, standing, and inverted poses. In asanas, there are 5 different groups of asanas depending on the way we start. Now, a recommendation from our teachers is that just consider how a child grows. The child first lies down, face when looking at the roof, and then the child turns 180 degrees, the prone position, and then sits, and then stands, and then does everything else. Similarly, yogic practices are suggested in the same way we grow: supine, prone asanas, and then sitting asanas, followed by standing, and then inverted poses. There is another justification from a strength point of view. Yeah, some of us have gone through the yoga common protocol 2 days ago. You might question me why the common protocol is different. Common protocol was designed by a few people. We don't know who they are, but then since it is a protocol, we just followed it. Whereas this one, if we perform standing asanas, it takes a lot of energy. Standing asanas take a lot of energy. Inverted asanas take even more energy. So we become tired in the beginning itself. So standing asanas and inverted asanas should be done towards the end. Right? Similarly, sitting asanas are very intense. Some of them are very intense. And these are prone asanas. Some of them are comparatively more intense than supine asana. That is why supine first, easy to do, and then prone, slightly more difficult, sitting, slightly more difficult than the previous group, standing, more difficult than the previous groups, inverted, much more difficult than the previous groups. So there are two justifications for this sequence, followed by pranayama. Some teachers suggested pranayama at the very beginning of the practice, and many teachers suggest pranayama to be towards the end of the practice. I would also suggest pranayama towards the end of the practice because pranayama prepares us for the other practices like dharana, dhyana. So it is better we start to focus in pranayama, continue that focus in dharana, and then dhyana. So finally, dhyana. So please remember, this is the suggested practice. During our practice initially, we followed the same order. But then for the sake of yoga protocol, we changed the order only for a few weeks. Now, what is the diet? I'm sure you have already discussed mitahara in the previous satsanga. Is it possible for anybody to kindly chant it for me?
Radharani Bhagini.
Come here, sir.
शायिवर्जितः भुज्यते शिव संप्रीत्यै मिताहारः स उच्यते.
Yeah. Susnigdha madhura ahara. Ahara that is prepared with ghee and sweet, which is sweet. Cheturdhamsha vivarjita. We feel only 75% of our stomach, leave 25% empty. So it is not filling the stomach fully. Cheturdhamsha vivarjita. Bhujyate Shiva samprityai. We should offer the food first to the Lord Shiva, and then we consume ourselves. Such ahara is called mitahara. Now, I'm sure there are people who do that religiously, offer food immediately after preparation to Lord and then consume. Please do if it is possible. Then more importantly, Swami Sivananda suggested a lacto-vegetarian diet. There are many vegans, they call themselves vegans because they don't consume any animal produce. They also avoid milk as well as curd. But then yoga teachers suggest lacto-vegetarian. Very importantly, in the beginning of our practice, we were commence this practice should consume milk products for a few weeks because the body undergoes a lot of changes due to yoga practice, and the nutrients as far that are contained in milk products are very essential. Milk products such as milk, curd, ghee also, cow ghee, not any other ghee, cow ghee. So lacto-vegetarian is better, and avoidance of meat is recommended. Right? Lifestyle, it is very important to follow yamas and niyamas recommended by Sage Patanjali. These are recommended by other texts also. Without practice of yamas and niyamas, it is said that we cannot make progress in our yoga journey. I mean, the higher practices of yoga are not easily possible if we do not practice these two. It is quite evident. If we don't practice yama and niyama, our mind is polluted. A polluted mind cannot focus, cannot concentrate. So we cannot probably go beyond dhyana. We cannot even perform dhyana properly. So these two are recommended as part of lifestyle as far as possible. And if we can understand and follow dinacharya and ruticharya of Ayurveda, these two can become a topic for discussion. And there are recommended practices, about 15 practices as part of dinacharya. Ruticharya is even more better. The kind of food we can consume during different seasons, the kind of food we can avoid based on our Ayurvedic constitution, they're all discussed in Ruticharya. So, from a lifestyle point of view, these are recommended. What are the common challenges that are encountered by the practitioner? I will read this out. These are 9 of them. We call them antarayas. Vyadi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, bhranti darshana, alabdha bhumi tattva, anavasti tattva. These are chitta vikshepaha, te antaraya. Vyadhi is sickness. Whenever we are sick or ill, we should not be practicing yoga. But then, what happens after sickness? Even though we recover, we tend to, discontinue yoga practice. So sickness, a brief sickness, has potentially stops us from yogic practice. Unfortunately, dullness of the mind is a challenge. A doubt in ourselves. Can I perform? Can I stretch? Is it possible for my body to do yoga? Samshaya. Pramada, carelessness. Yeah, I can always do it later, kind of a thing. Laziness, same thing. Lethargy. Right? Craving for objects, too much of craving for objects. We give more importance to material world. Obviously, yoga takes a backseat. Erroneous understanding, erroneous view of yoga. These people do not continue yoga. Somebody who is trying to achieve something as part of yoga, it takes time. And a person who is still unable to achieve it thinks that, oh, it is not possible for me to attain any state, so I discontinue. Finally, instability to stay in a yogic state. Somebody achieves a higher state in the progress of yoga, but then they discontinue or they try to show off because they achieved something, and while doing so, they fail to continue the practice of yoga. So these are, these play on the body as well as the mind, and somehow they take us away from yoga. And there are 4 more. I did not include those 4 as part of this presentation. Dukkha, Daurmanasya, Angame Jayatva, Swasa Prashwasa. These are Vikshepa Sahabhavaha. Right? Dukkha, sorrow, grief. Daurmanasya, your mind is troubled. Angame Jayatva, you have a physical disability, limitation. Swasa Prashwasa, irregular breathing. All of these stop us from progressing, from doing yoga. So how do we overcome these? Just focus on one object. That's what Sage Patanjali says. Focus on one object. Focus on what is important to you. Focus on doing yoga. Right? That's what it is. And Badhaka Tattva, as mentioned in Hatha Yoga Pratipika. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpaha niyamagraha janasangaha laulyaha cha shadbhiryogo virasya. These 6 challenges: overeating, we're heavy, digestion does not take place properly, obviously we cannot perform yoga properly. If we do strenuous work, too much of hard work and become tired, it is not possible to do yoga properly. People who get into talking too much, they talk too much, waste their time. Obviously, give more priority to talking than performing yoga. This is a very strange one. Somebody who follows rules very strictly, for them also it is it is not possible to progress. Why? For example, there are certain rules mentioned by teachers. You clear your bowels, physical preparation, and you have a bath before performing yoga. You better have white shirts or a white dress. You better have this kind of mat. These are all rules prescribed, let us say. Sleeping early the previous day, getting up early the next day. These are all the rules prescribed. Now, let us say we are unable to follow those rules because of the regular life. What do we do? What do people do? Most people do not practice yoga because they are unable to follow these rules laid down. You don't have to follow these rules very, very strictly. There is some relaxation here and there. You're unable to have a bath, no problem. Perform yoga. As far as possible, having bath is necessary, important, recommended. But then if you're unable to do, please practice yoga without having bath also. Right? The company of ordinary people. So we can even say lowly people who are negative in nature, who do not encourage you to do yoga practice. Right? Fickleness of the mind, obviously it stops us from anything else, anything positive. So we have to overcome these challenges and progress ourselves. Now, what are the essential aspects, essential precautions we should be taking? These are the most important ones for regular practice. When we perform asanas, remember the definition of asanas. Thira Sukham asana. Asana is a posture which is steady and comfortable. Now, when we say steady and comfortable, that is sometimes misleading. We look at the picture. Let us see the first asana here, that is Vakrahastha Bhujangasana. A person who is very flexible should be able to raise the body like this and also, bend the head backwards. That is a regular practitioner. Now, a practitioner like us, let us say we are older, comparatively, older, 45 years of age or 50 or 60 years of age. Is it possible for us to bend the body so much? Obviously not. So we should stop where it is comfortable for our body. Yeah, it is suggested by my teachers that if you know the 100% capacity of your body in that asana, you experience 100% and then stay at approximately 80% capacity. So if this is my 100%, I stay here 80% and then stay there in that sthiti for longer duration. That is very important. Understand Sthira Sukham Asanam like that. It is for my body, Sthirata and the stability and whatever, the Sukha, Sthiti is different. Comfort is different. So it is according to one's own body's comfort. There is no competition here. Now, there are three aspects that are important while performing asanas: Swasa, Sthiti, and Drishti. From the basic pose, we call that Samasthiti. From Samasthiti, we move into Asana Sthiti. While moving into Asana Sthiti, it is done using breathing. The thumb rule for breathing is when our head moves away from gravity, like this, away from gravity, you inhale, breathe in. When the head moves towards gravity, you exhale. Another one, when we raise our hands, inhale. When we lower our hands, exhale. These are thumb rules that can be applied to almost about 90% of asanas, maybe more than 90% of asanas. It is very important that we take appropriate breathing while performing asanas. And then in asana sthiti, we perform normal breathings. These normal breathings, sometimes for people, it is difficult to take normal breathings, natural breathings. So they take fast breathings. It is fine in the beginning, but then as you practice, the breathing will be normal, your capacity improves, and it takes a few weeks' time. It cannot happen just in about 3 to 5 days. Right? So it takes time. In yoga, everything takes time. Remember that. And drishti, in every asana sthiti, for example, in again, Vakrahasta Bhujangasana, first asana in the picture, look at where the person is trying to look at, Bhumadhya. So for every asana, there is a place where we should look at, and that can be learned during the course of practice. When we perform intense poses, especially the inverted poses, we have to perform counter poses also. The intense bends, we have Dhanurasana, the bottommost one, Dhanurasana. Dhanurasana requires counter pose. Chakrasana requires counter pose. So we must understand what the counter pose is for each of these intense poses and then perform them also immediately. For Dhanurasana, Shashakasana is the counter. For Chakrasana, Pavana Muktasana, Purna Pavana Muktasana is the counter pose. So we have to bend the body other way around. Mountain pose can also be done for Chakrasana. Now, what about symmetry? Now, look at Virabhadrasana, the leftmost one, warrior pose. You bend the right leg at 90 degrees and then stretch the body upwards. And this has to be done on the other side also. The left leg at 90 degrees and stretch the body from that side too. So if an asana is performed on one side, that should be performed on the other side also. And this is very important. This is one of the reasons we would call yoga as a whole brain process, whole brain practice. It develops both the brains, left brain and right brain. Another important aspect of asana practice is contraindication. Not only asanas, for every yogic practice, there is a contraindication. For example, people with high blood pressure should not practice intense forward bends and intense inversion poses, because these poses increase the heart rate. Obviously, the blood pressure increases, which is not good for them. So we have to observe there. This can be done with your observation too, but then learn it beforehand. Learn the contraindications and then do. If you have back pain, we should not be doing intense backward bends. We should not do forward bends too. Right? Yeah, precautions during pranayama. Actually, this is what is said in Hatha Yoga Pradipika regarding pranayama. Chale vate chalam chittam nischale nischalam bhavet yogi sthanutvam apnoti tato vayu nirodhiyat. These Hatha Yoga practices recommend pranayama as one of the main practices. And some of the Hatha Yogis even say that even pranayama is enough as a preparatory practice towards dhyana, because there itself we focus too much. We gain the ability to perform dharana and dhyana. So when the vital air is moving, chale vate chalam chittam, when the air is moving, the mind is also moving. Nischale nischalam bhavet, when the air is restrained, the mind is also restrained. Yogi sthanutvam apnoti tato vayu nirodhiyat. When the yogi sadhaka controls the flow of prana, then the yogi attains stability. That is what is said here. So how do we attain stability? In regular pranayama practice, we inhale and exhale. There is another aspect. Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka. Puraka is inhalation, Kumbhaka is retention of air. For that purpose, we use bandhas, and then Rechaka is exhalation. And not only this, there is a particular ratio in which we should practice Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. Inhale for, what do we call it? One portion, one duration, let us say. 4 times that duration will be Kumbhaka, retention. 2 times that duration will be Rechaka. For example, we inhale for 4 seconds, we retain for 16 seconds, and we exhale in 8 seconds. That is the recommended pranayama practice. So then initially, it is not so easy for everybody, especially for the middle-aged. We should practice Samavritti pranayama, inhale for 4 and then exhale during 4. Slowly increase, inhale in 6, exhale in 6. And then slowly change it to inhale in 6, exhale in say 10 or 12. Slowly attain 1:2 ratio, inhalation and exhalation. And then start to perform Kumbhaka. Straight away performing Kumbhaka works for a few people who are energetic, who are young, but not for everybody. And this is why it is also said in yogic texts, if you do pranayama properly, it can eradicate all the diseases. And if you do not perform pranayama properly, sarvaroga samudbhavaha, it can bring in all the diseases, especially lung-related disorders. Anything else also possible, right? So be very careful when you practice pranayama because it is very intense when you include kumbhaka also. There are different pranayama techniques available. Most probably you might have experienced anuloma viloma, and then shitali, shitakari, and then bhramari. There is Surya Vedana pranayama. As part of the text, Chandra Vedana pranayama is also there. It is not there in the text, but then introduced by some of the modern gurus. Right? Ujjayi. Ujjayi is one of the pranayama techniques that can help in weight loss also. Right? So these are all the pranayama techniques we can certainly practice, but then learn from a teacher first. Progress slowly, not a steep progress. Right? And again, for pranayama also there are contraindications. If somebody is suffering from high blood pressure, they should not be performing the heat generating pranayamas. Surya Vedana pranayama is not recommended for a person with high BP. Chandra Vedana pranayama is okay. Ujjayi is also okay. Shitali, Shitakari are also okay. Anuloma Viloma is also okay. Right? So these are to be understood and then practiced. And precautions during Shat Karma, very, very, very important because these are very intense practices. Some of these practices, especially Dhautis, Kapalabhati, Nauli, and Basti, these increase the heart rate. So precautions should be taken while performing these. Neti can be performed very easily and it is also easy to learn. Jalaneti is very easy to learn and practice. But whatever it is, we have to understand these three aspects again: Purva Karma, Pradhana Karma, and Paschat Karma. For most of these kriyas, these are all kriyas, there is a Purva Karma to be done before the actual practice, and then Pradhana Karma, which is actual practice, Paschat Karma to pacify the effects of actual practice. For example, a simple one, I'll take an example of Jalaneti. If you can have a drop of almond oil in each of the nostrils or a drop of cow ghee in each of the nostrils overnight, a night before, the nostrils will be free. Airflow passage will be free. And when you perform Jalaneti, the water flows freely from one nostril to another nostril. So practice becomes easier. That is the importance of Purva Karma. And then Paschat Karma, when you perform Jalaneti, a certain small quantity of water might get accumulated in the nasal passages, especially in the sinus areas. It is very dangerous to leave the water there. So what do? We do Paschat Karma. We bend our body in such a way that the accumulated water will be forced out of the nose. So these are to be understood, remembered, and practiced religiously. Right? And frequency of these asanas, these practices. Neti can be performed more or less daily, but then it is recommended. Do it for, say, about a week. Take a week's gap and then do for a week again. It is not recommended to do every day, unless you really need it. And Vamana Dhauti, kind of intense dhautis, they can be performed probably once in a month, or maybe once in 2 weeks. The body requires a lot of strength to perform them. There is the most difficult one, which is called Shankha Prakshalana, the Prakshalana of the whole gastric, so from mouth to the anus, whole digestion system. It can be done probably once in 6 months or once in a year, depending on the need. So these are not to be done every day. Tataka can be done every day. Kapalabhati can be done every day. Once you attain a certain level of practice, you can perform Nauli also every day. But when it comes to Neti, Dhauti, and Vasti, they cannot be done every day. So understand the frequency and then do accordingly. There are contraindications again. A person with high BP should not perform most of these. A person who has a headache should not perform Tataka. Kapalabhati cannot be done by them, headache. Right? So we think meditation cannot have any contraindications. But that is very important. When people think that anybody can do meditation. No, absolutely not. People with high anxiety attacks, clinical depression and anxiety should avoid meditation completely. If these are in moderate levels, they should undertake meditation or yoga nidra under the guidance of an expert teacher. So it is possible that these people forget to breathe and suddenly fall unconscious. So they better remember these practical aspects. So that is about today's discussion. We took approximately 1 hour. I'll conclude the session with the closing prayer and then we'll have questions. If you can chant, you can also chant yourselves with your microphones on mute. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu. Now, if you like to ask me questions, you can.
If anyone has questions to ask, please raise your hands. Hemalata Bhagini.
Yes, Bhagini.
Namaste, Mahodaya.
Namaste, Bhagini.
I am 65 years old. I have varicose problem, slight varicose problem.
Yes, Bhagini.
Can it be rectified by yoga?
It takes a long time with yoga, but then you can pacify the effects of yoga by performing certain asanas.
Such an asas.
Yes.
Which yoga, Mahodaya?
There are a few asanas that are very, very beneficial. For example, Utthana Padasana, Ardha Halasana, and there are a few supine poses. Even Pavana Muktasana is recommended. Raising Padahastasana, Supta Padangushtasana. There are asanas, and if you can ping Radha Bhagini, probably she can send you asanas for varicose veins. You can for sure pacify the effects of varicose veins, but you should do them on a regular basis.
Okay.
And it is a very simple problem for yoga. And it is in beginning, very beginning of when the ailment, it is even easy.
Yeah, beginning stage only.
It's very easy. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Well.
Anyone other has any other questions?
Namaste, Mahodaya.
Namaste, Mahodaya.
I'm Sitaraman.
Okay.
You had very, very comprehensive idea about practices and practical considerations. Very, very, very. But are there, places where they conduct like this in the present situations? No, are there some teachers are there? They just teach commercially. They teach some asanas, but who go into depth and teach very seriously.
Mahodaya, these are all learned from our teachers. Our teachers have taught us. Luckily, all our teachers are like this.
Okay.
We have experienced at least 4 sets of teachers. All of them are like this. All of them taught us whatever I have discussed today.
Oh, great.
So this is Guru Kripa.
Oh. But you stay in a place, do you stay in Tirupati or?
Tirupati, Mahodaya. Tirupati.
Tirupati must be well known for all this practice, yoga practice.
Not really. We have Sanskrit University here. It
Yes.
used to be called, what is this?
National Sanskrit University.
Name. Sanskrit University had a different name
Uh-huh.
earlier. And they have yoga department,
Okay.
a big hall. We went there, we learned from Lakshmi Narayana Mahodaya, very good teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you were civil engineering background.
Initially, I was a civil engineer, yes.
Did you study in SP University?
A private college in SP University, Mahodaya, as part of SP University.
Okay. Because my friend is there, SP University was a professor, Narsimha Rao, Professor Narsimha Rao.
I heard